right, folks, for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm just going to act as traffic cop and let my good buddy, former investigative journalist and crime reporter for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Jim Marrs, steer the conversation because he broke the first part of an investigative series yesterday at Infowars.com. He called me up last Friday about it. Insider reveals arms deals behind recent major events. That is the article up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And he said this fella has gotten, older and just doesn't care anymore, I guess, about his safety, basically. And so, and Jim Marrs, of course, best-selling author, taught the first university-level course on the JFK assassination 50 years later. He's probably the leading person, other than maybe Oliver Stone, known for exposing it out there. And, of course, he advised on that film, and his book was turned into a lot of the work on that film. But William Robert Tosh Plumlee, goes by Tosh Plumlee. I'm going to let, instead of going over his whole background here, and he's set to testify before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but he did that. He did testify back in 1990-91, and he's reportedly going to be testifying again. And I just mentioned that Jim Marrs had some big news on Benghazi and stuff Friday, or was it Thursday? And then Fox News hours later was calling him up. So they're definitely listening, too, and wanting to know. And one big thing is once he testifies, they'll gag him, like they did last time on other issues. So that's kind of what you're hearing here. But I'm going to let Jim Marrs, investigative journalist, tell us about the story and then bring Tosh Plumlee in. So let's introduce Jim now. Jim, you bring it in, you introduce him, and I'll let you kind of co-host and honcho things. So, Jim, take it over.
Okay, thanks, Alex. We're hearing all these major stories breaking over the past several months. The bombing of an ouster of Libya and the ouster of Gaddafi, and then we have the Benghazi thing where the ambassador Stevens was killed and some other people. Our embassy attacked, and then we've got now we might recall also the Fast and Furious where the Alcohol and Tobacco Firearms Agency of the federal government was sending guns into Mexico to the drug lords. I mean, it's like, what's going on? And now we're being asked, Congress is debating whether to give the president the power to go and bomb and missile in Syria over the poison gassing of innocent civilians, which, of course, is terrible. But I still have two questions that, as far as I know, have not been clearly answered, and that is who precisely used these chemical weapons and where did they get them, okay? And I think that the story we have here now is the fact that America has been accused of being the arms merchant of the world, and it's very true. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars that are going to foreign countries legally. We're not talking about the smuggling. We're talking about legal sales, and this is all happening under various little-known agencies within the federal government, such as the Direct Commercial Sales Program under the State Department. And I think what it does. This is the glue that holds all of these stories together.
And again, federal law, as you know, said that they couldn't arm designated terrorist groups like al-Nusra under the command of the head of al-Qaeda. Obama signed an order 2 weeks ago authorizing that, and almost no media covered it. Infowars.com covered it, WorldNetDaily.com covered it, DrudgeReport.com covered it, Washington Examiner covered it. You would think that'd be big national news.
Well, it should be. It should be, because these terrorist groups are predominantly Muslim, and they are targeting Christians and Jews in all of these various countries, and these are the very people that Obama wants us to align with. This should be a huge issue, and people should be talking about it. But to get to Tosh Plumlee, Tosh I've known for more than 20 years, I suppose, and I've never known him to tell me something that hasn't been pretty well backed up. The problem is, of course, operating as a contract pilot for the CIA, he was never an official employee, so you're not going to find paperwork on all of this. But he goes back to providing arms and ammunition to the Bay of Pigs invaders.
But it's on record that he's testified to Congress. They've vetted that, and you've known him for decades. And he's been a great source for you. So tell us why he's joining us today. This is some big news.
Well, because recently he's been active in the investigation into the arms running into Mexico, and he sees the same thing going on in the Middle East. In fact, Tosh, why don't you explain what you see happening over there right now?
Okay, Jim, I'll try to sum this up as tight and as best as I can. Number one, I do appreciate the article that you did write. I think Mr. Jones, Alex there put it out on his website. I'm not real sure if it's still up or not. As far as the direct commercial sales program, that's been an ongoing program that's monitored or controlled by the State Department. Over the years, I've seen a pattern develop in here. I was a C-130 pilot. I've flown guns, ammunition, not damn near all over the world. Most of the information that has been out there in the past has been information that was released before the fact and has been backed up by New York Times, Washington Post, and other major publications that have covered, or let me put it this way, didn't cover, but basically touch upon this program that is used to ship weapons all over the world. In my travels, I found out that it appears to me, in my opinion, we start the conflict, we escalate the conflict, we supply high-impact weapons to both sides of the conflict, we receive certain monies that can't be traced that go to unnamed places, and when someone starts to come out and basically complain that is involved in one of those operations, he's put on ice, even to the extent that the Internal Revenue Service goes in and attacks these people. Number one, I'm not a conspiracy type.
Right. Tosh, let me ask you this. Is it true that all too often some of these arms, which initially may have been going to some friendly government or friendly ally, but they end up in the hands of some of our worst enemies? Is that true?
That's true, because there's no monitoring or no follow-up. By law, we're supposed to keep track of those weapons, but we don't get information from these foreign countries when they're stockpiles or
well, look, Obama is openly arming al-Qaeda now. This is unprecedented to openly do it. We know they've run them forever. As Dr. Corsi said yesterday, we are al-Qaeda, or the people that run our country. This is not for American interest, though. It's for the interest of the big banks that want to destabilize folks and the folks that are selling the weapons. But Tosh, I know you can't talk about classified stuff you've been involved in. I know you've been gagged by Congress before, but looking at what's happening with al-Qaeda attacking Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, looking at the open funding of al-Qaeda, what does this look like to you with your expert research and background?
Well, okay, we go in with weapons all over the world, okay? Now, if we're going to fund the Syrians and the Syrian rebels, there's in those rebel groups, factions that have infiltrated those rebel groups, and as a result, they get our U.S.-made high-impact weapons, and then they turn against our very troops. Our troops go into these foreign countries, fight our weapons. We C-130 flights all over the world, from Jordan, C-130 flights all over the world, from Jordan, Turkey, Pakistan, and safe houses run by the Central Intelligence Agency supply these weapons to the Syrian rebels that are embedded within these radical groups that pilfer the weapons from a program that is legally done by our country. Now, they do not want me or other pilots and people talking about this openly. That's why the gag orders are in place. Now, we're getting off on the conspiracy stuff here, but what I would like to bring back and focus back in is Mrs. Smith and her son that was killed in Benghazi, who has been fighting for over a year now, to find out what happened to her son. Now, it's very simple. Why won't they release the document that the ambassador sent to State Department when his and his people over there became aware that these American-made weapons were in hands of radicals and Syrian rebels, and he asked and begged what to do about it. Dispatches are there that this administration refuses to turn over to Mrs. Smith so that she can find out what happened to her son. Now, that's the focal point that I'm on this program. There's a lot of stuff. This goes back to the 1950s when Cuba. We armed Cuba. I flew guns to Fidel Castro. Castro went out and fought against Batista, and he fought against American Sherman tanks, and he fought against artillery. And we funded both sides. Iran-Contra. We funded both sides. We set up the Southern Front. I flew to a secret base, Santa Elena, Costa Rica, owned by Ollie North, and Point West in his notebooks.
I tell you what, Tosh, stay there. I want to come back and get into that because it's amazing what you've seen. First arming Castro, then fighting him, and people say, oh, well, they're flipping back and forth. No, they're creating the entire conflict to sell weapons, period. That's the big crime here.
The Alex Jones channel is the official page of the Info War. But don't miss what's happening on our other channels. The Info Warrior, with the week's best videos. Prison Planet Live, where Paul Joseph Watson gives his expert analysis. And keep up with the rest of the Info Wars crew on our other pages. All of our videos are available to repost for educational purposes. See the sidebar of the Alex Jones channel for the subscription links. And remember, you can always find our videos in the highest quality by becoming a member of PrisonPlanet.tv.
All right, folks, Alex Jones here, back live on this 24th day of September 2013. We've got legendary writer and researcher Jim Marrs on with us, and Tosh Plumlee. I didn't introduce properly, by the way. He didn't say this during the break. I was just realizing it. He is one of the incredibly interesting people that testified in '77 before Congressman Frank Church's committee and his select committee on intelligence activities. One of the few times the whole underbelly of the system got blown wide open. Regarding his knowledge of the Kennedy assassination, Plumlee testified that their assignment was to stop the planned assassination of John F. Kennedy. He's also on record flying guns into Castro and then guns in against him after. He's testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in 90 and 91 about the Iran-Contra arms for drugs missions. And it just continues right there. However, his testimony was classified by the committees on grounds of national security. Senator John Kerry, now Secretary of State, served on the Senate committee. We only got 5 minutes in this segment, Mr. Plumlee, a long segment coming up, but you've got the floor. Repeat what you said about how this works, tying it into Benghazi, because it's on record now, but when you testified, it wasn't. They admit what you said in '77 was true, that Castro was actually started to kick. But well, I mean, tell the story in your own words.
Well, okay, back in my day, in the early days when I was just first become a pilot, I was a co-pilot, and I worked for various CIA cutout companies out of Miami. Some of them are Regina Air Cargo, Riddle Airlines, Air Mountain States Aviation, blah, 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 and all those things that at that particular time were not known about. They were only known about after what you mentioned, the church committee, when it was blown out of the water, that we were transporting and doing arming a rebel, a little-known rebel who used to be referred to as Castro in the early days, who wore a funny fatigue hat. Anyway, that was the very early days of 1957. When the rebels came out of the Sierra Madre, they went in and, with the help of the M26-7, Cuban underground, the students of the University of Havana, eventually Batista was overthrown. During that time, we flew many, many guns out of Miami, South Florida, and other places into Cuba in support of Castro. United Fruit was involved in that. Weiland of the State Department was involved in that. Guns were being funneled from private sources as well as government sources in to fund him. At the same time, because of the American OAS treaties, we were required by law, because Batista was a sovereign government, and we were required to fund him the necessary weaponry to eradicate that Cuban rebel that was running around in the mountains of Castro. That was my first influence of gun running. That was before the big drug deal. Later, years later, a lot of us guys that were picked up in that through flight plans, fuel receipts, different companies that were later proved to be associated with various agencies of the government were required to testify. Some of these people were actually assassinated. Some of them were put in jail for a long time. I decided to go public before the fact, in order to protect myself. That was my
smart.
Motivation. My motivation was not to go out here and get publicity, to write books, or anything else. It was simply to protect myself. I did not protect myself from the Internal Revenue and had to fight them for a number of years because of receipts that I had obtained from those companies, payments because it was a cut-out secret operation, was not reported to IRS. However, they come down and said I made X number of dollars, and they, in turn, decided I owed the federal government at that period in time in the 70s something like $55,000. I carried that for 10 years. But anyway, that's another story in itself.
That's what you get for doing these secret programs. So expanding, moving into Iran-Contra, then we'll tie it into Benghazi from knowing how these operations work.
Okay, after I got involved, I had to go back and make a living. I made contact through this Arizona Tri-State Drug Task Force, which Bruce Babbitt was governor at that time, and I started working the drug program through a cutout company with the Organized Crime Task Force in Phoenix, Arizona. I, at that time, documented the flights going in and out of various places, got involved later into the Iran-Contra, the beginning of it in '83, went and told Senator Gary Hart at that time exactly what we were involved with. At that time, we were involved in running guns secretly off the books operations through elements. Now, let me clarify, elements operating within the CIA. Some elements of CIA did not even know what we were doing. We were referred to as a secret army, a type of Praetorian Guard, if I may. That's on the record.
All right, stay there. Amazing information, sir. 18-minute segment coming up. This was a short one. Tosh Plumlee is our guest, one of the star witnesses from the Frank Church committee hearings. And you're going to get an inside scoop here on the government flying guns out, drugs in.
InfoWarsStore.com, a conscious and involved distributor of independently made products that support a healthy and aware community. Dive into cleaner waters with your own ProPure system and Pro1D filter. Save 10% with the promo code WATER. We've handpicked a veritable treasure trove of the best non-GMO seed banks on the market. And our selection of films showcases a wealth of knowledge outdone only by our books. Check for combo packs to multiply your savings. Wear your colors proudly with one of these conversation starters. Now available in pink. Get prepared and fund the revolution at InfoWarsStore.com.
Tosh Plumlee and Jim Mars, who can interject any time. We go back to them in just a moment. Folks, this is a really cool and important website. It's VPN4, just the number 4, all.com. During these unjust times, it's no secret that Big Brother is spying on your web activity without a warrant. VPN4all.com protects your internet connection from tyranny with military-grade encryption. That's VPN, the number 4all.com. Doesn't matter if you have something to hide or not. It's that it's your private info. They're criminally looking at it. Make it as hard as possible. They keep no records whatsoever of your browsing, so you will leave no trace. Based in the Netherlands, free from police state internet jurisdiction. Easy to sign up and use. It's a great way to prevent data mining. Try it out for 3 months, and you won't be disappointed. All info warriors who go to VPN4all.com right now will get 10% off. That's VPN, the number 4all.com. VPN4all.com. And please become PrisonPlanet.tv members. You see the nightly news, all my films, expanded extras, a higher quality feed of the daytime show, commercial-free audio, video, podcast, and it's helping us build our news division. The great reporters are funded by it, the research, the writers, the equipment. We have really invested everything and are getting ready to launch a whole bunch, new studio, satellite uplinks, all of it. And it is the PrisonPlanet.tv members that have helped build all this. So you get first access, live access. If you're not a PrisonPlanet.tv member, become one today. We are supported by viewers and radio listeners like you. And one membership is really 11 memberships. You can share your username passcode with up to 11 people simultaneously that can log in with the same username and passcode. So one membership for $5.95 a month that just pays for the bandwidth is really 11 people. PrisonPlanet.tv. There's ebooks, a whole bunch of other films. PrisonPlanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com. All right, I want to give you guys the floor now, really, and just roll with it. Going back to Iran-Contra, specifically how that ran, the compartmentalization, all of it is so important. And we've got Tosh Plumlee and, of course, Jim Mars on with us. So, Tosh, start over about a minute before we went to break. You were talking about Iran-Contra, when that really started, what happened there, and then tie it into what's happening currently from your information on Benghazi. Tosh Plumlee.
Okay, first off, I want to apologize for Jim Mars for hogging this whole deal.
No. Jim can come on any time. He wanted to get you on. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay,
we want it straight from the horse's mouth. No,
Okay,
I'm just a reporter. You're the guy that lived it.
Okay, I'll talk about me, and then later you guys can talk about me. How's that?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, we're back up about 1978 through 83, 85. After a business failure because of various things the government did not want me particularly talking about, and I was threatened to write a book about it, I took off and got involved with the Phoenix Organized Crime Detail, Task Force, and drug running. I later released an article titled Iran Drugs Front the Sound that was written by the San Diego Reader in August of 1990, making reference to the 78, 83, 85 era. I'd also talked to Senator Gary Hart. He was kind enough to write a letter to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which detailed these flights and the illegal flights going to factions operating in Central America and southern Mexico.
Tosh, weren't you flying the arms down to John Hull's ranch in Costa Rica?
Yeah, right. That's what opened all that up. The La Pinta bombing. I think Leslie Colburn did an article, did a book on that in 1987 called Out of Control. That was the beginning of the unraveling after Hossenfuss and them bailed out, and a good friend of mine got killed in the crash down there. That's when the Iran-Contra Southern Front. I was working on supplying weapons to the Southern Front through a secret air base known as Santa Elena, Costa Rica. And that was known as Point West in Oliver North's notebooks. I ended up testifying to Senate Security Committee. Went into detail not only about all that, but going all the way back to Cuba, Kennedy, Contra, and beyond, as I refer to it. And they immediately end up classifying it because it was a matter of national security and was classified committee sensitive, top secret committee sensitive. That testimony remains so today, and I've been warned not to make reference to it. However, in order to protect myself coming out on the airwaves today, I am making reference to it.
Okay, hey, let me interject. Right? Let me interject.
I got to see 130.
Tosh, if I can interject right here, my friend Senator John Cower was head of that committee investigating Iran-Contra. And although you were muzzled and everybody else was, he was getting ready to write a tell-all book. But then all of a sudden he was conveniently killed in an airplane crash. And his writings have never been made public.
Well, that's true. There was, as I made reference, I got a C-130 pulling in here. Hold on a minute. I'll see if I can blot this out. I apologize for this. I can't help it.
Okay, while we're waiting on the C-130 to come and go. There you go.
Okay, he's not going. He's staying here. Anyway, there, as I made reference to earlier, there was a lot of us guys, or my friends and colleagues. Some of them got killed. Some of them went to federal prison for a number of years. because of the operations that they were involved in. That's the whole reason that I came forward before the fact, so that at least I would have it on record through some news media that I was making those allegations. And as I said, Senator Hart was very gracious enough to write a letter to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, as well as another reporter out of Telluride, Colorado, by the name of Art Goodtime, who also covered that. However, mainstream media was told that they could not cover that because it was a matter of national security at that particular time. That has been going on for a number of years now. But as far as me getting up to the area of getting involved with the Arizona Tri-State Drug Task Force, which was a cutout operation that was used in order to funnel guns and ammunition into through the John Holes Ranch, as well as Santa Elena, Costa Rica, and Citgo Aviation and Paco Solo, and all those places that are now recorded in secret documents as being transshipment points for drugs coming back into the United States and weapons going down. What I did in the article with Iran Drug Sponsor Sam, I released a detailed military map with all the staging areas and all the drop points and all the coded names of the Rooster Hop operation, and that was all given to Senator Hart, Bill Holden, his security advisor, for the record to protect me before I went to talk to the Senate. I released that article to Neil Matthews at the San Diego Reader. He published the map, and they threatened me with going to jail because I had released classified information. However, nothing ever happened to that. The reason that I went back into that area is because I needed the money. They had just ruined my business in Denver and Colorado with IRS tax lien and completely put me out of business. So in order to pay my bills, I went through pilot recruitment through Avnet International and was picked up as a pilot to get involved in that undercover operation that was transporting weapons down to Central America. Also, some of those weapons went into Colombia. Now, that's the story, my background. However, this is not what I really wanted to really talk about on this particular program. I hope we have time to get back to Mrs. Smith and her problems in the Benghazi situation, but we'll go from there. Now, I know I'm hogging all the time talking, but... No,
that's why we have you here. Please stop apologizing, Tosh. Get into now that we have some background of this, now let's get into Benghazi from an insider's view. What's going on there?
Okay, all right. I was asked sometime when I started in Mexico. Some time ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, a good reporter friend of mine, Bill, I'm not going to mention names, but anyway, it was a news media outlet. I was asked by some military friends of mine, high-level, secret clearances, to help protect them in Mexico because they were aware that there were leaks that was putting their task force in trouble, almost getting them involved with the cartel, and they were having members of the cartel gunning for them, and we were training troops. That was an article called "The U.S. Has Boots on the Ground in Mexico." That was a very top-secret task force operation. We were training the Mexican Marinos in Mexico, and in the process, the task force found out that the Army, the Mexican Army, not the Navy, but the Army, was pilfering weapons and going in and starting the Zeta. And U.S.-made weapons were getting into the Zeta's hands. Now, that was before Brian Terry was killed, Border Patrol agent. At that point in time, it got a little bit spooky down there because I went in with them and I photographed the weapon. I photographed the transshipment point. I photographed and worked the border down there for 3.5 years with the Border Patrol and also made secret reports back to what was going on through the task force out of Fort Bliss, Texas, through the Border Patrol. This was all recorded before the fact with my statement.
Now, Tosh, just to back you up, everything you're saying is actually, not from your perspective, but from others, has actually come out in the news, that Los Zetas is really a secret army of the Mexican army, and that the only group that isn't totally corrupt is the Mexican Navy. That's what my high-level sources have said as well, but it's also come out in federal court. So sum up the Mexican drug war. Who are the parties down there?
All right. The various cartels that have been formed, the Navy And the task force, the American task force, worked with the Navy Marinos. That's the whole deal. In the process of this, they found out weapons, and some of these guys that were in the Mexican Army, as you know, and your sources are absolutely right, they pulled out of the Mexican Army, went in with various cartels. We're first in with the Zeta and some of the others, the Latran, Bella Latran, blah, 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 and all those, hundreds of them at that particular time, some out of San Diego, the Gulf, Central, and out of Juarez. All these cartels and gangs, they were gangs that became known as cartels, but anyway, they were getting these weapons that were going to Mexico from the direct commercial sales program, not being monitored by the Blue Lantern Report. Our news media in the United States refused to take that stand. A few news media did cover that, alternative news media.
So let's be clear. Let's be clear. We're not just talking about State Department weapons shipments now to al-Qaeda. We're going back 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, arming actual drug cartels, which has also come out in court later. Let me ask you this question, and I've seen this before. If you, for your own safety, because people were getting killed that were part of operations in the 50s and 60s, if you went public in the 70s, how are you still, including today, doing work for the military and other groups and other task forces when you've gone public before? Is that because there's light side, dark side in government and different compartmentalized areas?
All right, that's a very good question, and I explain it this way. Everybody takes pop shots at the CIA. There's an operation within the CIA that the CIA doesn't even know exists. And that doesn't mean it's a rogue operation. That's what it is. It means that these operations can have access to our arsenals to take weapons to go into special operations under the disguise of training troops in foreign countries to defend their borders. As a result of that, filtration, weapons are stolen out of their arsenal, and in some cases actually given to radical groups for political purposes to overthrow or destabilize a country. In some cases, we have elements within our government, and I'm sorry to say this, and I'll probably get my ass creamed for doing it, but we fund both sides of the conflict. It's a monetary thing. Again, follow the money. Follow the money. Where does it go? I mean, this is a black off-the-books operation. Now, there's damn good people in the CIA, and there's damn good people in State, and there's damn good people in the DOJ. But it's also, some of these people's hands are tied because of political whatever, and I'm not going to get into conspiracy or anything like that. That is the facts of the way that it is. Now, back to your question about how I still can stay engaged. I have some very good, deep, sensitive friends that work both sides of that issue. And as a result, when I have to go to them and say, hey, man, my family's starving out here. I need to get aboard a damned airplane. Can you give me a job? Well, Mr. Plumlee, you know what the job is? Yeah, put me on board. Now, if I kept that secret, I would be dead by now. The only thing that keeps me alive is the fact that I'm talking to people like you before the fact. Now, elements within that organization that I'm talking about, that secret organization, would like to cream my butt. But also, there's other people in that same organization of the CIA and the State Department and the DOJ that want me to continue to work those operations so that I can get the intel through other sources and myself.
And I knew that was going to be your answer. Exactly. So you're a good guy that other good guys on the inside use, because there's always a war between good and evil in anything. And that's why good people have to take action. As our founders said, all that evil men need to take over is that good men do nothing. Now,
that's absolutely right.
Hey, Alex, if I could jump in here, one of the criticisms that I've heard of the article that we posted is that, well, you know, we these foreign gangs and foreign governments and and terrorists. They're using sometimes Chinese weapons, Russian weapons. It's not our weapons, but I think Tosh will verify this. When he says they're going into CIA stockpiles and military stockpiles, we stockpile a lot of weapons in this country that we snatch up from other countries. And,
no. Last month they bought 600,000 AK-47s from the Russians. The U.S. Army did.
Exactly. And also, if you look at all of these billions of rounds that Homeland Security is buying, a lot of that ammunition is in odd calibers, like 44 caliber.
It's in Warsaw. It's in Warsaw Pact.
Exactly. These are not for U.S. Army and military and police purposes.
Yeah, they're flying it around everywhere. Guys, stay there. We got one more segment. I want to get exclusively into Benghazi then when we come back with Tosh Plumlee and have Tosh get anything else that he had said on the record. Tosh, is that what you want to get into when we come back in 3 minutes?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're I'm trying to follow Eileen. He's coming all the way up, so we're good. Let's go into what brought me forward in modern day, so to speak. Today.
Yeah, final segment. You'll have the floor when we come back. Just to get it all out there that you want out there for your safety on the other side and for the people to know what's really going on with all this. All right, folks, we'll be right back with one of the key whistleblowers of Iran-Contra, but even more importantly, the Church Committee. That is such an amazing committee.
Hello, this is Hank Hill, and I'm telling you what, you need to listen to Alex Jones.
Yeah. Infowars.com.
My judge, what is the secret of the universe?
Infowars.com.
Final segment. I've clearly got to get Jim Mars and Tosh Plumlee back on soon. And I know you're down at a military base right now, Tosh, but if we could ever get a video camera out to interview you, I'd love to get you on the nightly news and have it documented that way. We got 6 minutes left. You've got the floor. Bring it all in to what you saw, what you know, what you've heard about Benghazi and the cover-up that's ongoing.
Okay, am I on? We on now?
Yes, sir. You're on the air.
Okay, all right. Listen, I'll jump way ahead here. Okay, here a few months ago, I heard a broadcast on one of the news channels, and it was a Miss Smith that was begging our government and the State Department and President and Vice President to please let her know what was going on, what happened to her son. How did he die? Why did he die? She begged and begged. She said that they told her at their casket and hugged her and kissed her and told her they'd get to the bottom of all this. All right, that impressed me. Okay, because I know how this system works. Later, I began to wonder, why won't they tell her anything? So then a contact of mine in the Middle East, a high-ranking NATO official, mentioned to me that he had reports that the ambassador had been complaining about the dispatches and cables that he had sent to the State Department about weapons being received in radicals' arms, including Stinger missiles. His question was, where are they coming from? What do I have to do? What should I do? And he was ordered to stand down. Now, this is secondhand information from a very sensitive source. Second time that happened was from a very good friend of mine that had worked the Mexico beat in Central America and southern Mexico, and also with Kiki Camarena in 1985, who had also found out about gun smuggling through the Carl Quintero Ranch and got himself killed because of that information. But at any rate, he was telling me the second confirmation that that ambassador people had written a series of field reports and cable dispatches advising our State Department that the rebel faction had been armed with U.S. weapons. Now, my contention is this. If that is the case, why is that classified as a national security matter? Why can't they tell that woman why and how her son died? That's all she's asking for. Now, okay, if I'm getting on a soapbox, I'm getting on that soapbox. I challenge the State Department to release those memos that the ambassador wrote to them 4 weeks, 2 months before the place was attacked.
Well, Tosh, let me just stop you. Tosh, let me stop you. I know you're at an airbase right now and got to go soon, but we'll do a little bit of overdrive for 5 more minutes into the 4th hour if you can do it. I want to be specific. I have Pentagon sources who say, well, it said a week after that's what happened, that the ambassador, and one of them got threatened and wouldn't even come back on the show for 8 months after that happened, that the ambassador was saying no to giving al-Qaeda heat-seeking missiles, and that they had 3 warehouses full of them, and so they just ordered them all killed using the Benghazi al-Qaeda security force that Obama had hired, and that this was just trying to wipe out the witnesses of the weapons so they could also then expunge the cables. Is that what your NATO source told you?
That's what exactly happened, and that is known as a private company, a security company that was hired. Those weapons were U.S.-made weapons that came from the direct commercial sales program, legally transported by C-130s into Jordan, into Pakistan, into Turkey, and dispatched out of CIA safe houses into the Syrian rebels.
Unbelievable. Stay there, sir. Stay there. Back in 60 seconds. This is Bombshell.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
Tosh Plumlee has testified before Congress multiple times in 1990, 91, and back in the 70s, the Church Committee. And I'll tell you, I was going down to the beach last... I guess it was Friday. I was driving down there to meet my dad and my son who were down there alligator hunting and fishing. Yes, we're pretty redneck, folks. And they'd be like Putin posing with dead alligators. But the point is I was driving down there and Mars called and said, I want you to publish this story first and get Tosh Plumlee on. I said, I've heard that name. That's one of the Iran-Contra whistleblowers. He goes, yeah, this is really big. He's got sources on Benghazi, but it's really dangerous. Hours later, they get calls from Fox News. So I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, well, I'd first talked to him before I left that day here, and I mentioned on air he's got some Benghazi news, and Fox follows our show. You see him publish some of our stories. And so they're on it. I mean, this is a big deal. And Tosh, we've only got like 3 minutes left. I appreciate all your time today. I want to get you back up very soon. And I guess you wanted to get this testimony out for your own safety, but you're saying you talked to a high-level NATO officer, and he told you, again, in your own words, what happened at Benghazi. Because my intel is, from multiple sources, they killed the ambassador and his crew because they were saying no to giving missiles to al-Qaeda.
They were not only saying no to giving missiles to al-Qaeda, that was the second deal. We were giving high-impact weapons to the Syrian rebels. Within that group was some of the al-Qaeda members and so on like that, would pilfer those weapons and use them against our people. That's what the story is. That, in my opinion, is what the cover-up is. The story about someone doing a film that made the people go radical and go crazy over there was a cover story to cover a top-secret, ongoing operation of arms shipments to the Syrian rebels, period, before our president, commander-in-chief, decided that we needed to arm the Syrians. I am not a conspiracy person. This information that I got comes from multiple sources. It is, in other words, I'm going to get my ass reamed for talking to you the way that I'm talking. But that's the only thing that has kept people like me alive. They're going to come down on me like duck on crap. I know that. That's the reason I'm being so adamant to explain what happened to you. Back to Mrs. Smith. Tell her what happened to her son. Her son defended an ambassador that had uncovered tremendous arms shipments from the United States arsenal through the direct commercial sales program that was supposed to be monitored by the Blue Lantern report, who someone dropped the ball someplace, and those weapons were used to kill our ambassador.
So it wasn't just weapons gotten from Gaddafi in a cover-up. It was direct arming the rebels then, which Obama just signed an order to legalize 2 weeks ago, wasn't legal then.
All right, go in and get the fuel receipts of the C-130s that flew out of certain places like March Air Force Base and so on like that. Get their flight plans. See where they went. They went to Jordan. There were other C-130s.
You're talking about Georgia on the Mediterranean. You're talking about...
No, Jordan.
How come
Jordan,
there were so many of them?
Middle Eastern country.
You know what?
Jordan,
I'll tell you what,
Pakistan.
Tosh, you better say everything. Have you said everything? Is there anything else? Because you know they'll probably kill you if you haven't said something else.
Well, no, if they're going to kill me, I mean, they're going to have to kill a bunch of other guys because I put this stuff out in a very safe place, and so is my contact from the NATO over there, and so is my high-level military contact.
Listen, if you got more time, this is too important. Can you do 15 more minutes? Because this is a short segment. There's a long...
I'm here. As long as they don't fire these C-130s up in front of me so you can't hear me, I'll sit here because, look, I'm not trying to get publicity.
No, I know, sir. This is big news here because I have my sources, but...
All I'm trying to do is get information so that Mrs. Smith can go direct to our president and please ask for the documentation that the State Department has that confirms that the...
Sure. Stay there.
As we saw in Katrina, and as we are watching now in New York and New Jersey, the federal government can't and won't help you in a crisis. FEMA ran out of water and MREs in days. Electricity is still off to over 1 million people. The Red Cross, who is quick to beg for money, is now slow to react. Don't put it off any longer. Get prepared today. While you're on InfoWarsShop.com, check out these other great preparedness items. The Aquapod Kit lets you store up to 65 gallons of water in your bathtub. The Pocket Socket provides you with manual electricity for small electronics like your cell phone. The Life Straw is great for your bug-out bag. And check out our complete line of Interfood products for great tasting and nutritionally dense foods that have a great shelf life. If you are looking to secure your home in a crisis, you can order Strategic Relocations, the film, a great companion to the book Strategic Relocations 3rd edition, and The Secure Home by Joel Skousen. When the time to perform arrives, the time to prepare has already passed. Get prepared now, so if a crisis strikes your home, you and your family will be secure. Go to InfoWarsShop.com.
All right, Tosh Plumlee, Iran-Contra whistleblower, you name it, flew guns back to Castro under CIA orders. Testified to the church committee. Just amazing that he's decided after years to go public and speak out again, still flying aircraft at a U.S. military base right now. Earlier, they fired up a C-130. You could hear it in the background. And he's hiding out on his extended lunch hour there on the cell phone talking to us. William Robert Tosh Plumlee, he goes by Tosh, is with us. We got 12 minutes left. Jim Mars. You haven't talked a lot here. We're hearing some incredible info, and we told everybody basically this a week after it happened from one Pentagon source that came on the air, Colonel Schaefer, who's run Black Ops all over the world, and then he got in a lot of trouble and said, well, I didn't mean exactly what I said, so he had to retract some things just so he didn't get in too much trouble, but he said what he said, and he knows he said it on air. And then we had, he said all hell broke loose. And then we were the first to report this, by the way. I'm not bragging. No brag, just fact. It's actually, I wish other people were the first to break this because we've had Saudi Arabian intelligence, that's clearly who it is, messing with my reporters, saying nice family, videotaping them in the street. We've been getting a lot of death threats of the serious type. They are hopping mad right now, folks, that we exposed the rebels. We're given chemical weapons by Saudi Arabian intelligence. We're on the cutting edge of this, so I'm glad other people like Tosh Plumlee is going public, but I want Tosh to be able to finish up points and recap what he said. It's historic information here from multiple sources, including a NATO high-level military officer. And I want Jim Mars to have some final comments here in a moment. But Tosh, from what I've been told, this has finally woken up the entire military. That's why the Joint Chiefs went to Obama and said, you're not going to attack Syria. We're not backing al-Qaeda. This is over. The military is on the edge of mutiny. The vast majority of military and polls are against it. All the military I talked to knows that they were watching live feeds or talked to friends that saw live feeds from the predators of the 6.5-hour gun battle as they were ordered to stand down. NATO all saw it. Everybody knows it was a hit. So here's my question. Did they pull off security and just let them kill them? Or did they order the Benghazi security, the al-Qaeda forces, to go kill them to get rid of the witnesses? Did they let them die for a cover-up, or were they involved in it, or did your NATO source say anything? And is my information correct that this has the New World Order in deep trouble because so much of the military now understands how expendable they are?
Well, in my opinion, they came out here and they tried to turn that into political. In other words, it was a very serious situation that was rapidly developing over there. In other words, the State Department and other agencies refused or did not, I'm not going to say refused, they did not get back to them in time because they were concerned of how that was going to look politically. It would be a political bombshell if it was revealed that U.S. weapons at that point in time were being given to factions in the Middle East, through Turkey, Jordan. It would also expose methods and procedures. It would also expose our CIA safe houses that were operating in Jordan and other places, Pakistan and Turkey and Saudi Arabia. It would expose those operations that were involved. It would expose our politicians on both sides of the aisle that was involved in corporate gain, in my personal opinion. So that had to be blocked. We had a military situation that had the military intelligence from that region over there, and it was about to explode. Which I think it was turned over in for political, for possible re-election campaigns or whatever the hell was going on at that period in time. Point is, those people got sold out. Her son got killed because of political tampering with a very volatile situation in the Middle East that was about to explode. And it did explode, and it has exploded. So, now, yeah, you're right. I'm going to get myself in a lot of trouble. There's a lot of guys out there. But maybe by me coming forward, you're going to get more confirmation from other people that actually were the boots on the ground that was over there at that time, carrying out those covert missions, and they know exactly what happened. And the pilots that flew the guns and the ammunition from our U.S. bases to those areas, hopefully they will come out and get off their butt and come out here and take a risk with me.
So basically, Tosh,
what the hell is going on?
You're tired of watching all these people cowardly sit on the sidelines and let this type of stuff go on. So you're telling what you know to try to spur them to go public. They reported 2 weeks ago that a whole bunch of witnesses have had their identities changed under White House orders. Those people, I guarantee, are just waiting to be killed. From what I've learned and what Jim Garrison, who I know you know, said, the way to stay alive is to go public. What would you say to witnesses of Benghazi who are out there? I would tell them, go public or you're dead.
Well, let me put it this way. I am a civilian. I am not a government employee. If I was a government employee, by the laws that are on the book, it is my responsibility to come forward and tell my superiors and my supervisors exactly what I've been involved in as a government employee. If I suspect that I'm involved in an illegal operation, if I suspect that I'm involved in aiding a terrorist group, it is my responsibility as a government employee to report that to my supervisors. Now, in some cases, these men have reported that to their supervisors and their commanding officers. Some of them have gotten killed. One in particular was Colonel James Sabo of the Marine Corps Naval Air Station back in the 90s. He went forward on a gun-running operation down to Caro Quintero, Guatemalan guerrillas being trained at a secret base down in Mexico. He got killed for that information. They tried to say it was suicide. Okay, it was not a suicide. It was an outright hit. The people that was involved in that supposed situation, that was an outright hit. Look, the reason I'm being so adamant is I don't want one of these black ops hits hitting me or my family. So I need the support because I am a civilian. I am not a government employee. I can talk. I don't have to worry about my pension. I don't have to worry about my star. I don't have to worry about, am I going to get a new rank for playing ball with the politicians that are taking over the military-industrial complex? My opinion. Does that explain anything, Alex?
No, it certainly does. I'm just advising people that have direct knowledge who haven't already been killed. They're saying a bunch of Benghazi people have changed their identities and will never be seen again. They probably changed their identities like Jimmy Hoffa.
Look, most of the people that do these extreme black ops are working under cutout names. My name was, I'm not even going to go into that. That's not important. But there is a system out there that is in place that is pilfering and stealing from the American people for profit, for gain, corporations, contractors, people that get out of the military and go to work for a contractor and go security, go over and get involved. Follow the money. Find out where these guys are going for. Go into Qatar, go into Jordan, go into Turkey, go into Pakistan. Get these safe houses. Bring this stuff forward and advise the American people. Mainstream media will not touch this kind of information. Number one, it's their responsibility to bury it. Now, I'm hoping that some of my crews that I'm familiar with will come forward and say, well, this is what I did. But if they do, they will lose their pension, and they will have the Internal Revenue on their ass before sundown.
Alex, if I can jump in here and try to put all this together, everything we're talking about, it ties right into everything that you talk about constantly on InfoWars, which is the dark center of the New World Order, if you will, okay, or what Bill Moyers calls the shadow government. And at the very center, it's the money. It's all about the money. And who handles the money? The international banks, the big guys, okay? Citibank, J.P. Morgan, et cetera, et cetera. All right? And then, so this is the money that is greasing the shadow government, which is actually running the United States, not our elected officials, not the Constitution. And this is why it's so important for this information to get out to everyone so they can start dealing from a position of reality instead of operating with rose-colored glasses in la-la land.
And Jim, it's getting more reckless, and they're using the al-Qaeda threat to take our liberties. These corporations and groups are out of control to the point of the British won't even launch this attack on Syria, knowing it's going to start World War III. These people are out of control, and I salute you and Tosh, Plumlee. 1 minute final comment from you, Jim. 1 minute final comment from Plumlee.
Well, mine's real simple. That people have got to wake up, start listening to alternative media, educating themselves so we can turn this country around and go back to the principles of freedom and liberty that it was founded upon.
JimMars.com is the website. Okay, Tosh, final comments.
My final comment is the reason I'm doing this is I want my country back. I'm a patriot. I'm an American citizen, and I have fought hard all of my life. I'm 76 years old, and it's time to put this shit to bed.
Amen, brother.
Yes, it is time to put this globalist garbage to bed. It is time to turn things around. Things are getting so crazy, and the criminals are so out of control. We're actually the criminals' best friend because they're going to end up destroying themselves and everybody with them if they don't stop. These people don't know when to quit.
Well, that's my opinion. And back to Mrs. Smith, I hope that this broadcast will get some people in D.C. off their butt and communicate with that woman and let her know what happened to her son. I think every mother needs to know when their son is lost in battle for the sake of this country and the patriotism of this country, they need to know what happened.
I agree with you, Tosh. God bless you. We'll talk to you again soon and hopefully get you back up in the next week or so. You too, Jim. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, folks, what we know from this is that Tosh Plumlee is someone who's testified repeatedly and been proven accurate before Congress. He's saying he has a high-level NATO source that said that the State Department was transferring weapons directly to the al-Qaeda forces, the Syrian rebels, and that they basically took out the ambassador and others because they were complaining. And that's what I have from other sources as well. But this is from somebody who's talked to the NATO person who witnessed it and knew about it. This is big. This is big. This is dangerous. We're going to get articles out on Infowars.com the next 4 or 5 hours on this.
Now you can watch Alex Jones live at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
You can also browse the network, the InfoWars Nightly News,
and over 60 movies and documentaries all together in one place.
You can watch the Alex Jones radio show live as it happens.
So check it out, Infowars.com/show.